Hey, what's up guys, TechTitan here, and this is going to be my 48 hours later with the T-Mobile Revvl 7 Pro. So before I begin, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you do enjoy my videos, make sure you leave a thumbs up. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. So mainly what I want to focus on here is things that I didn't really talk about in my first impressions and what I've learned about this phone 48 hours later. I do want to cover some things here and there about the design itself first, so let's go ahead and begin with that. So the design is definitely one of the major upgrades when it comes to this phone, just because of how different the T-Mobile Revvl 7 Pro looks from previous generation. Now, it's not all sunshine and roses, right? It's still made out of relatively low quality material. Still feels good in the hand. However, one of the things that I did not like about it is the fact that it's extremely slippery, and two, it does catch smudges and it does catch fingerprints and things of that nature. So if you want to keep it clean, keep a case on it. It does have this kind of subtle curvature on the sides to provide, I would say, maybe like a better look and feel in the hand, but again, it still is a very slippery device. The sides are glossy, and the back itself does also house your quad camera setup, which we will definitely cover later on in the video, so just hang tight with me. On the bottom of the phone, you do have your headphone jack, your USB-C that does support 25 watt of fast charging, as well as your bottom facing speaker and a microphone, and your right hand side does have your colored pink power button that matches the company's logo, as well as your volume up and down. Now, these buttons themselves, they're not really the most clickiest or most tactile button that you'll use. They're fine, they do the job. One of the things that I did have to get used to when it came to this design is the power button placement. So it's placed literally at the center of the phone. It's placed different than other phones, right? So it is placed on the lower side of things. If you look at a typical phone, the power button would be placed where I just placed my finger at, but the Revvl 7 Pro just makes it lower, maybe because it is a large phone at the end of the day. But that's just something that you have to keep in mind. That way you go ahead and get used to it. Okay, so overall though, as a design, like I said, it may not be made out of the most premium materials out there. However, as far as looks, it looks fantastic. It definitely looks like a phone that I would pay $299 for. However, with promotions and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure it's going to be cheaper than that to begin with. Okay, so next up in my conversation of having the phone 48 hours later, I do want to discuss the display itself. So for the first time ever, the T-Mobile Revvl lineup finally gets a full HD plus AMOLED display. So it is a 6.78 inch display that has some decent perks to it. It gets fairly bright, not the brightest AMOLED display, but it works fairly well in outdoor conditions. And you also have the ability to get up to 120 Hz, what they call smooth display. Now you can't have 120 Hz all the time. The phone itself will decide when it will give you that 120 Hz if you have the toggle switched on. Now, as far as sharpness detail, I didn't really have any problems with that. I do want to say this about this display: the bezels are a little bit on the larger side in today's day and age, which is even crazy to say because the bezels are small as is. However, what I want to say is also this definitely has been an enjoyable experience. So watching your content, consuming social media, doing whatever you want to do that has to do with looking at your phone, which is everything, is a good experience. Also, what I want to discuss is the speaker on here is a decent quality. Not the best, but definitely gets loud enough for my usage. So the display gets a thumbs up in my book. So next up, I want to discuss the specs themselves and the performance. And this phone does also have some nice perks when it comes to that. So first of all, you get a octa-core processor, and it is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 6 Gen 1 processor. It does support 5G, of course. And in addition to all of that, you do get a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. You get crazy standard storage of 256 gigabytes, which is fantastic to see on a sub $300 phone. And in addition to that, you also get a whopping 8 gigabytes of RAM. So far, it seems stacked. Not to mention, you also get the ability of wireless charging on a $300 device. So again, thumbs up for that. As far as my benchmarks go, so the single core gave me a 900 and the multi-core gave me 2713, which is right where this processor would be. So it's definitely not going to be the highest end, but it does fall in this kind of mid-range category. As far as my daily performance, like opening up the phone app, multitasking, things of that nature, so everything that has to do with your daily lifestyle that doesn't push the phone to its fullest will work fine on this phone. Multitasking, thanks to the 8 GB of RAM, is fantastic. Even things like if I wanted to push this phone a little bit heavier and play games on it, it worked fairly well. Now, it did get a little bit warm, but nothing too uncomfortable. So far, the performance on here is on point for the money. So definitely gets a thumbs up from me in that regard. Okay, so now I want to discuss the camera system on this phone. So the Revvl 7 Pro does have a quad camera setup with a 50 megapixel main sensor, a 5 megapixel ultra wide, as well as a 2 megapixel depth and a 2 megapixel macro sensor. Now, and you also have this kind of two-tone flash, but basically the camera interface is simple, straight to the point. It's kind of your familiar Android camera interface. It takes pictures almost instantaneously, and you do have the support to the wide angle, and transitioning between the main sensor and the wide angle sensor is pretty good. I trusted this phone's autofocus system to be good. Now, I will be doing a dedicated camera review where I'll be taking a lot more pictures, so stay tuned for that. But essentially, this phone also has optical image stabilization in addition to the ability to record 4K video. The pictures that I took with this phone kind of lacked contrast, and switching to the wide angle lens, obviously there's going to be a loss in detail because it is a lower resolution, but the dynamic range on the main sensor is actually pretty decent, pretty nice. It's just missing a little bit of contrast. However, with my dedicated camera review, you'll see you'll see kind of more pictures and things like that, so stay tuned for that. Essentially, overall, I don't want to take too much of your time, so I want to kind of give a wide conclusion 48 hours later. The T-Mobile Revvl 7 Pro is a good phone. I know there's a lot of competition, but if you're looking for a phone that has a lot of storage, wireless charging, a lot of RAM, decent performer, and just a large phone in general, then this should be one of your options if you're with T-Mobile or Metro by T-Mobile. However, overall, this is definitely a phone that I've enjoyed using for the past 2 days. I want to spend a little bit more time with it. Again, the camera review, I promise you it's on the way, so just be a little bit patient with me. Be on the lookout for that. It's going to be a good one. So, yeah. With that being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below. If you had this phone, what do you think of the camera system, or what do you think of the phone in general if you have it? If you don't, would you switch to T-Mobile or Metro by T-Mobile just for this phone? Let me know in the comments below.